Hey everybody, my name is Angus Wright, and I also go by Angus by Design. And this is something that I call journaling out loud or the Dharma talks. I've called it many things for many, many years. Um, and I guess I really think I would start out by saying that as I call things by name and I describe what that means to me. I think back to the 90s in Vermont when a bunch of peers came together and came up with things like the key concepts for a program that was rolled out and started by the life work of Mary Ellen Copeland. So, with that in mind, I've called this video Self Advocacy. New week, new goal, but new me. And to me, recovery is an action, it's a way of being. To me, recovery isn't a yes or no or binary um, approach to being well. I use real world lessons based on evidence in hopes to lift my day. And that's in the chat box. I put it there. I use it as a wellness tool as well, just to kind of be able to circle back. But my goal, if you're just tuning in and turning on, is to try to spend about 20 minutes just living, just talking it out, right? So if you're joining, you're welcome to join. But that's pretty much what it is. We'll see what comes. Feel free to use the chat box. Feel free to use this video in some way. It'll be housed on Facebook Live for 30 days. Yesterday, I think it was, I did a video and then I was able to download it and upload it to YouTube. So if anything in this resonates with you, there's a good chance that you'll find it over there. Let's see. I can activate a poll, and the poll, let's see, is which of the other five key concepts will you focus on today? And so that includes hope, personal responsibility, education and support, and of course this video highlighting and focusing self-advocacy. So feel free to engage in the poll as well. My secret is I try to include all five of these things in how I approach life, right? So self-advocacy to me is those things that I can do, that they're within my control, so that I can try to experience a better outcome for whatever situation I'm in, right? How does that tie into October the 27th on a Monday? Well, in my life for a very long time, I had a practice and a routine. And even though some folks and some people over the long term, the short term, no term, their own terms, made choices where it has a very real world impact on me every single day in the transactions that I have. So, transactions that I have when I access my former workplace, which for me is a bus. It's the OC Transpo buses that I have to see every day. And I love seeing them every day. People in the short term can impact how we associate ourselves in the spaces that we're in. And for me, I refuse to let any bus, any transit bus, represent something negative. For me, transit buses, for example, represent my family connection with my uncle, who was a bus operator. He drove transit. And in my childhood, it was a great source of pride for me to know that my uncle drove bus. I used to know what corner to go stand on and see him and wave. I used to brag about it to my friends. That was my uncle. And he drove bus. The other thing he did was he was the community coordinator or organizer of my hometown's Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. And so I also have memories of going to college, community college, and seeing folks who were going to share a little bit of coffee, some cheap ass cookies, but who were there to connect and fellowship, right? And as a kid, did I respect or know or understand what their stories were about? No. They looked like an obscure bunch of weirdos who were telling the wackiest stories about this shit that they did. I had no idea that there was a format or a purpose to that. I certainly didn't understand the deep, deep history of Alcoholics Anonymous, where it came from, where it's going, who's part of it, the challenges, until I did some research and study. But I'm so proud, I'm even more proud that my uncle in my small town who drove transit had such a big heart and a love not only for his own family but for everybody in the community, but also for the very act of recovery. So when I'm a bus operator, and I've qualified through 2 trainings. I'm telling you, 2007 when I first qualified and did the training here in the city of Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Canada is probably maybe most rare transit property because it's federal, right? City of Ottawa being very special because it's the national capital. We're learning more and more about this, I think, in the last several many years, especially since things like the lived global experience of shutdowns and shenanigans, I call it. Right? All those public relations campaigns about who to be and where to stand and who gets to do what. Right? At the end of the day, every day, I open my eyes. I have many choices, many stories, many ideas, many thoughts, many things I could be doing. And at the end of the day, I try to close my eyes and get restful sleep. In between is the story not only that I tell myself, but that others tell me through communications, right? Through lived experiences. So these are universal concepts. And that's what I love to think and focus on, because sometimes when we are of trauma experience, when we do have ongoing experiences where people in our lives, in our homes, in our buildings, in our neighborhoods, on our blocks, in our bars, in our churches, in our public spaces, at the DMV, at the resource centers we pop over to, at the places we log on to, all of this matters and we all play a part. And when we show up, especially with advanced warning, and we agree to certain terms and conditions, well then the important thing, right, is that everybody gets a chance to self-advocate. And if I'm making it personal, That includes me. So, who am I? Again, I'm a person who, my whole life, I have tried to figure out which end is up, who's doing what, what's happening over there, but mostly how do I save my personhood? How do I preserve what's left of me? How do I get to be part of the active living? Because that's what I'm doing. I was born on this planet, Earth, right? The same time frame we're in now, 2025. I was born in a hospital to two parents, one who was in possession of a vagina, the other who was in possession of a penis. They got together through some shenanigans and some 70s era voodoo, whatever they did back then. I wasn't there, other than I kind of was, except for not yet. And then, not even 9 months later, because I am not one to wait, I burst onto the scene in 1976. The hospital I was born in, you know, I think the place in which I hatched is somebody's living room right now. It's an apartment. Um, the records, well, who knows where they are, because it was the 70s. But I certainly have a birth certificate. I most certainly was assigned a gender at birth. I absolutely went through the Ontario housing system and social welfare system and disability social system. Certainly have experienced frequent hospitalizations throughout my childhood and my teenhood and my 20hood. Right? And in my 30s, I actually started to transform and take back a body that was carrying 300 extra pounds. So I'm 6'2". If you look at a person who's 6'2" and 300 pounds, and if they were to go to their doctors or they were to go to the World Wide Web, we would learn that that person is an obese person and they should lose weight. So imagine being an obese person or a morbidly obese person, again, labels, and actually needing to drop enough weight, that of which is a morbidly obese person, right? So what matters? How did I accomplish it? How do I accomplish it? Who knows? I certainly remember what I've done. I certainly know what I do. I certainly understand the framework of which I've been able to feel better and get better. But you know, I just can't compete and I just can't compare. I can't compete because trying to get the tools I've needed, trying to still access the groups I'd like to be part of and the education I'd like to receive and the understanding and the tools I'd like to access, I mean, I can't. Right? I can't even access the practice in which I started and shared. And why is that? Right? I mean, I know. I know the facts versus the feelings, but we have to experience both of those. So for me, if I'm circling it back to self-advocacy, it's a new week, a new goal, but is it a new me? I would say, well, it's certainly a new week. Today is Monday, October 27th, and it's almost 12 p.m. here in Ottawa, Canada. It's a new goal? No. Why? Because I actually am just a disabled bus driver. Permanently disabled as of 2018 due to the actions of a whole pile of people. A whole bunch. Oh my gosh, the people involved in the shenanigans of which I have to overcome. You know, I can turn on GPS and point to 5 people who should have probably fucked off out of my life a very long time ago, and yet I walk past every day and have for a very long time. People who have had and collected many, many paychecks for many, many years, all of their ideas being covered up or helped out or supported in some way. They still insisted, no, 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 no. I can make you do it this way. I can force you into this idea. And they weren't able to do it. So now they're in an awkward position. People who I supported because of the advocacy and my values and ethics around people who experience the need or the thoughts or have been encouraged to acts of suicide. But I am about prevention, not only for myself as a survivor of many attempts over many, many years, from childhood to, um, well, I think I'm trying to remember what my last attempt was, um, or the last time I had entered crisis so bad. But I certainly know it was a very long time before I started work as a coffee barista. I know that it happened and that I haven't been anywhere close to the idea or the action of it since way before I got involved in comedy. Way before I moved to Ottawa. And the idea of being told or encouraged or having to bear witness to the losses, regardless of what people have done, said, think, feel, or act, it has a real world impact on me to be in these conversations. And sadly, I'm pretty limited as to where and when I can do it. Not because of me, and not because of the people who need people like me, but because of the competing, the comparing, the ego trips, the power trips, the legal fights, the legal battles, the shenanigans, the cover ups, the who did it's, the incommunications, the interpersonal blah blah blah, we're all in it, yada yada yada. At the end of the day, I'm in it to win it. I'm in it to beat the odds. I'm in it to be a participant. I'm in it to share. I'm in it to self advocate. Not only for me today, but every version of me that led up to today, and every version of me that's going to exist in my long, hopefully long, natural, yet radically Angus. Physical, mental, spiritual, social, financial, occupational, educational, all the things in my complex life. And it simply is what it is. So, I have 30 seconds. I really hope that this has found you in strength and resilience and love. It's my personal responsibility to bring joy and love to my life. I educate myself every day by listening to the world around me, and I'm surrounded by incredible support. I always have been, I am, and I always will be, even if I can't see it. So, I'm Angus Wright. I also go by Angus by Design, and this has been 20 minutes of me and the Dharma talks, just journaling out loud. You know, if you do anything for 20 minutes and it has a positive effect like this has had on me, well, then you've increased your wellness by 1%. If you do that more than one time a day, well, every little bit counts. So be well, and I'll see you tomorrow. Unless I don't. But I'll be here. You know where to find me. Angus by Design.